So, Ahsoka episode 3 happened, I guess. So let's talk about it. Before we actually talk about the episode, I would like to clarify some statements I made in my previous video about Ahsoka. Let's start with the easy one. The Clone Wars movie didn't come out 18 years ago, it actually came out 15 years ago. Yeah, that's kind of my bad, so don't take anything I say seriously at all. Sorry about that. The second thing is this scene in the show where Sabine gets stabbed, and I would like to clarify my stance on this. On the internet, this scene is incredibly polarizing, and you're either 100% against the idea that she could survive this, or you unironically think tis but a scratch, and say it's completely fine. And I think I'm somewhere in the middle, I guess. Is it possible, in theory, that someone could survive getting stabbed in the torso with a lightsaber? Yes. Hold on, don't gun me down yet. In theory, if you got the proper medical attention, you could survive, but you would 100% need to be in a bacta tank with oxygen, and you'd probably need to get organs replaced, along with muscle tissue, skin, nerve endings, all that. And also you would need weeks on top of weeks of physical therapy to regain your strength. Now, does any of that happen in Ahsoka episode 2? No! The only thing she does get is the Star Wars equivalent of a Kermit the Frog Band-Aid. The other reason this bothers me is the fact that she doesn't need to be stabbed in the narrative. It sounds a bit weird, but let me explain. What Dave Filoni is trying to do in the writing is show Sabine's growth as a character throughout the season, and there is going to be an inevitable rematch between these two characters. Think Anakin and Count Dooku. So to do that, Dave has decided to stab her without thinking of the consequences of stabbing her. That's why this is stupid. Honestly, if they wanted to visualize Sabine's growth, I would have been completely fine if they gave her a facial scar. Or even chop off a limb. You've done it before, just do it again. And also, robotic limbs are just cooler. Instead, Dave decided to do something incredibly ridiculous without thinking of the ramifications. That's why it's stupid. Anyway, on to the show. Ahsoka episode 3, Time to Fly. We open with Ahsoka and crew in hyperspace, traveling to find where the ship with the tracking beacon ended up. Ahsoka walks into the main room and sees Sabine training with Huyang. Sabine is practicing her lightsaber skills with Huyang, and this is interesting. Huyang has these holographic lightsabers that Sabine is cutting through, and Huyang is looking at the strokes she took through the hologram. And this is weird, since these lines are visualizing the path that Sabine's training sword took while swinging, but assuming that the yellow ones are good and the red ones are bad, some of these red ones have the exact same angle as the white ones. So I'm not sure what to think. I would assume that the stronger cuts are the straighter ones, but these are the exact same cutting angle. Also, I'm curious to why the cutting angle matters at all with a lightsaber, considering that it's just a laser that has no edge, and has always been portrayed as a cylindrical blade. So unlike samurai practicing with tatami mats, which is what I assume these holographic sabers Huyang is holding are supposed to represent, the angle of the cut doesn't matter with a lightsaber. Also, Huyang continues to be savage.
Not bad, but not good.
It's been a while.
Obviously.
God, he's so cool. Best character in the show. Anyway, Ahsoka suggests that Sabine try another technique, and Huyang says Sabine is not ready for that. Again, savage. Ahsoka then says that Sabine's skill with weapons comes from her Mandalorian upbringing. And that reminded me of a question. Where is Sabine during the Mandalorian Purge? That seems like an incredibly important event that she should 100% be aware of. Wait, yeah, does she even know that it happened? Are we gonna address that? I'll give the show the benefit of the doubt and say I'll wait until the show is over, but yes, Sabine should 100% know about the Mandalorian Purge at this point. Ahsoka then says that her Mandalorian upbringing won't be enough to defeat their enemy, and Sabine acknowledges this by adjusting her pants, calling back to her stab wound, which is just funny to me, as that should be the last thing the show should be doing. Anyway, Ahsoka then says that learning to wield the Force takes a deeper commitment, and this is true for Force users and people born with the Force / midichlorians. So learning to wield the Force is absolutely impossible for people born without the Force. Got it? Cool. Let's move on and hope that this show isn't destroying canon. Anyway, we get another base take from Huyang.
Well, I discovered that according to Huyang, I'm the worst candidate to be a Jedi out of every Jedi he's ever known.
You told her that?
It's true.
Hashtag get wrecked, hashtag savage, hashtag based, hashtag cope, seethe, mauled, cry, pee your pants. He then continues to be based.
It doesn't matter.
I think it does.
Agreed.
And then we get to the part of the show where we just start hitting beats of A New Hope with Obi-Wan training Luke in the Millennium Falcon while they're flying to the Alderaan system. Ahsoka gives Sabine a helmet that blocks her vision, and we get the whole, why am I putting this helmet on? I can't see. How am I supposed to fight if I can't see? Yeah, that line that's been repeated multiple times, I hate it so much. Anyway, Ahsoka starts teleporting around the room, telling Sabine to concentrate, ending with Sabine falling on the floor because she's not a Force user and never will be. Cut to the Republic fleet, and Hera is having a meeting with the Chancellor, and oh no. Oh, why are you here? Please don't bring her into this. She doesn't deserve this. Why is Mon Mothma here? Wait, that reminded me of another thing. Mon Mothma, you haven't aged a day. You look exactly how you did in Rogue One and Andor. That's baffling. And before you start accusing me of wanting the studios to age up their actors using CGI, I don't know if this is an incomprehensible concept to you, but you can make people look older or younger without the use of a computer. It's called makeup. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or not, but some people use it a lot to do that one thing specifically. But to be fair, makeup might be a ridiculous ask for this small budget TV show made by an up-and-coming indie company. Anyway, they then start talking about the investigation into the attack on the Vesper, and how it led Hera to the shipyards on Corellia, where they were attacked by Imperial loyalists that were still working for Morgan. Then one of the senators doubts that this happened, and what do you mean? They were very clearly attacked. You have witnesses. You have concrete evidence of these events taking place. You know this happened. Did this senator just not look over any of the information before entering this meeting? Because that seems like something they should do beforehand. Then Mon Mothma speaks up, being the only intelligent person in the room.
It was my understanding that the offenders were arrested and the facility shut down pending further investigation.
This is a good question. Then Hera says this.
Yes, but I believe their activity speaks to a larger operation.
It always does.
Involving Thrawn.
This is very important considering that the New Republic is at its weakest since they've decided to demilitarize for some reason. Anyway, then Hera asks if she can get approval to send a task force to the Denab system so she could get to the bottom of this. This should be a no-brainer for these politicians. The evidence on Corellia and the mere rumor of Thrawn's return should be enough to justify sending out Hera with a task force to at least gain more knowledge on the situation and possibly stop his return from happening. Then Senator Ziono starts talking.
General, be honest. Isn't this just another attempt to gain New Republic resources to aid in what has ultimately been your personal quest to find Ezra Bridger?
Ezra vanished while fighting Thrawn.
And that you conveniently use a threat of Thrawn's return to acquire those resources that could be put to a more practical purpose.
What? What do you mean, more practical purpose? My brother in Christ, whether or not Hera has personal and secondary goals driving her to investigate this, there is absolutely no reason you shouldn't be sending someone to find out. Then Hera says this.
Were you ever in the war, Senator?
No.
Just sat back and waited to see who came out on top?
Which is a cool line, if you're stupid. You see, I assume that the goal of this line for the writers is to show how he's a gross, wealthy politician who's only concerned with his own self-interests, which is a good idea for a character, but this line is still dumb. Hera must forget that he's a senator and not a soldier, and the job description is very different between the two. And even if he was a member of the Galactic Empire / Imperial Senate, that does not make him evil. That just means he's doing his job. Just because you are a member of a body that is corrupt does not inherently mean you yourself are a corrupt member. Mon Mothma was a member of the Imperial Senate, and she wasn't a corrupt individual, and in fact was helping to overthrow the corrupt government. What if Senator Ziono helped the rebellion as well? Also, I don't understand the apathy from Hera at all, just because he didn't pick up a blaster and start shooting every Imperial he sees. There are other ways to fight fascist governments, Hera. You're a general after all. You should probably know this. It's also funny that Hera is actively insulting a senator that she's trying to convince to give her the task force that she so desperately needs. And also, why doesn't he say anything to defend himself after this? He just kind of stands there. What is that eyebrow doing, bro? Then this woman starts talking.
I see no enemy, The Imperial fleet is scattered and broken. They have no centralized command.
Again, what exactly do you mean? Some of the most popular stories in fiction are those where everyone across the land comes together to destroy evil. Even in Star Wars, that's the whole narrative throughout the rebellion. So the same thing can be said for the remnants of the Empire as well. These people should have a complete understanding of this. Then Mon Mothma asks for Hera to leave and have a word with her cabinet. Then Hera leaves and she goes into the hallway and oh my god, it's him! And he looks so human. So if you don't know, Jason is the son of Hera and Kanan. And it's just a human with green hair. It doesn't have any head tails or green skin tones. It's just green hair. I don't know, it's just a little weird. The female alien gave birth to a male human. It's just weird. But also there's subtext going on here. The kid says he wants to be a Jedi, like Sabine. And while Hera is patting his head, we're supposed to be thinking about Kanan. But if you haven't seen Rebels, you have no idea who he is. And this show has not acknowledged him either. So for a moment, I forgot he existed. Anyway, moving on, we cut to Ahsoka and Sabine finishing their training with some water, and they sit down. Sabine says this.
I know, I can't use the Force.
As you should. I cannot stress this enough. You absolutely should not be able to use the Force.
The Force resides in all living things.
Shut up, Ahsoka! Anyway, Ahsoka leaves and talks to Hu Yang, and he continues to be savage and based.
You both knew this wouldn't be easy.
Well, what you said didn't help.
I only spoke the truth.
Then Hu Yang states that there have been very few Mandalorian Jedi, and Ahsoka says that she doesn't need her to be a Jedi, she just needs Sabine to be herself. And then Hu Yang says this.
Well, I suppose you do come from a long line of non-traditional Jedi.
I don't know what he means by long, considering that it's her and Anakin. That's it. Are we counting Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon? What about Plo Koon? We could throw him in there too. Are all of these just weird Jedi? I mean, Obi-Wan was practically the golden boy of the Jedi Order, so I wouldn't call him weird. Then Sabine is trying to move a cup of water with the Force, and it absolutely doesn't work, considering that she isn't a Force user! She then goes to meet with Ahsoka and Hu Yang to talk about the committee's conclusion with Hera. Hera says that the committee did not approve the mission. I've already outlined why this is stupid, so I'm just gonna move on. Wait, actually, I'm not going to. You know what Hera didn't bring up during the meeting? The fact that Ahsoka was there and fought what I assume to be an Inquisitor from the Imperial era, and an HK assassin droid. That's pretty damning evidence that something incredibly fishy is going on with the hyperdrive that was taken and 100% needs to be investigated because we are no longer talking about a mere Imperial operation, but the possibility of a Sith uprising. So why did Hera not bring this up? If anything, this is your best piece of evidence. I guess she just conveniently forgot, I guess. Anyway, they lose contact with Hera because they are entering the Denab system, and all communications are being jammed. Hu Yang says that there's something huge on the other side of the planet. They then start getting attacked and, oh wait, these ship designs, why do they look so funny? It looks like I'm watching the Planes movie from 2013. Anyway, Shin and Marok are two of the pilots of the squadron. Oh wait, it's actually 2 squadrons because Hu Yang says so. At that point, it's only 3 per squadron. Just make it 1 squadron. There's no reason not to. Then Sabine mans the tail gun. And again, we tread old ground, as this is again a reference to A New Hope, with Luke and Han fighting off the TIE fighters. Hu Yang continues to be based.
Hu Yang, anything yet?
On the object, no. However, I have several thoughts on everything else going on.
Not now.
Also, the acting continues to be pretty bad, considering that these people are in a life-threatening situation and they just don't seem to mind that much. Also, they make a dive maneuver in space. I don't know how efficient that is in space, but okay. Anyway, they fly close enough to see the Eye of Sion. Shin then tells Morgan that they've entered her sector. Morgan tells her crew to prepare the turbo lasers. I'm sorry, that's just funny. Turbo lasers. Then Shin and Marok stop attacking for some reason, and Morgan begins firing. As Ahsoka makes her way closer to the ship, Hu Yang starts scanning the hyperspace ring. Sabine also says this.
Deflectors at 10%.
That'll be relevant later. Anyway, as soon as Hu Yang gets a complete scan of the ship, this happens.
Scan complete.
Oh my god, did they kill Hu Yang? They didn't actually kill Hu Yang, he comes back. But let it be known, I had a heart attack when this happened. Hu Yang is the only character I care about. Anyway, Morgan asks if they've been destroyed and one of the robots says that they're off their scope. And then we see them floating straight through the middle of the ring. Listen, I'm not a hyperspace ring scientist, but wouldn't you want the most visible area to be the inner side of the ring where the ships dock? No? Okay, I guess. Shin then comes back and says that Morgan almost killed them, and Shin is going to finish the job. Spoiler alert, she doesn't actually finish the job. I don't know if that's supposed to be a rivalry between Shin and Morgan. I guess if you squint hard enough, maybe. Anyway, we then see Ahsoka come outside of the ship, and oh boy, get ready for this, boys. You have no idea what's about to happen.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready? Ready!
Oh my god, I can't believe they did that. Thank you, Dave. Star Wars is saved. We then see Sabine working on the ship, and she says this to Hu Yang's body.
For one time, I could use your advice.
Listen, Sabine, you don't know if Hu Yang can be revived or not, alright? He could be dead. Just saying. Don't make fun of Hu Yang. He's literally carrying your show. We then cut back to Ahsoka and the comedy club, and we see this. This cannot be real, bro. Dave Filoni, please never change how you write. Then Ahsoka runs across the ship to get back inside, and Shin is shooting at the ship, and it doesn't seem to be doing anything at all. Then we see Sabine flying the ship into atmosphere, and it just cuts immediately to it. They were also pretty far away from the planet as well. Just such a bizarre cut. We're in space, and then we're immediately in the clouds. Just so weird. Anyway, we cut to the atmosphere, and while they're being chased, we see the space whales. We love the space whales. And then the show is so obsessed with the space whales that the scene feels so weird. It goes on forever just looking at the space whales. The music is so intense while we're just watching these slow moving beasts. I also just feel nothing during this scene, so there's that, I guess. Then Ahsoka and Sabine evade Shin and Marok, and they go hide in the forest. And then Hu Yang comes back. Then they shut everything down, including Hu Yang, which is kind of weird. I don't remember Han needing to turn off 3PO in Empire Strikes Back when they're parked on the back of a Star Destroyer, but okay, whatever. Also, while they're hiding, Shin and Marok are scoping out the forest, and they can't find them, so they decide to regroup. And they also tell Baylan that they're hiding in the forest, even though they can't see them. Then Hu Yang shows them the hyperspace ring, and explains that it's still under construction, and that it's one of the most advanced hyperspace rings he's ever seen. Then Hu Yang says this.
Theoretically, if one knew the coordinates and navigation, yes, I believe it could. The Jedi archives speak of intergalactic hyperspace lanes between galaxies, which used to follow the migration paths of star whales named Purgle.
I'm sorry. What? Remember the scene in the previous episode where Baylan said that the path to Peredia was a Jedi fairy tale only known as myth? In the best of good faith, you could argue that the Jedi were once aware of intergalactic space travel, but then fell into obscurity and became legend. But what Hu Yang just said about the Jedi having records of this in the archives now confirms that the Jedi Order were aware of intergalactic hyperspace travel and didn't do anything with it. Congratulations, Dave. You've just destroyed canon again. Then we cut to Baylan, and he tells his men to hunt Ahsoka and Sabine down in the forest. And then the episode ends. Yes, that is the only Baylan skull scene in the show. That's it. So I'm pretty confident in saying that this is the best episode in the show, solely based on the fact that there is barely anything in it. Barely anything happens. Also, this is the shortest episode, coming in at 30 minutes, if you take out the credits at the end and the recap at the beginning. And the only thing that really happens in this episode is that Ahsoka goes to find the ring, they fight, and then they find out what the ring is. What brilliant storytelling, Dave. But anyway, that's been Ahsoka episode 3. I'll be back for episode 4 and the rest of the episodes, sadly but obviously, so consider subscribing to get my complete opinion on the show. Good morning, and leave me alone.